move on and have actually Brendan Staglin give us the final word on this I think hopefully very productive day. And Brendan is president of OneMind, and he's been very active and very supportive, I think, of research and especially on engaging patients in research. He's been driven to improve brain health science, provide solutions for improving the care and science in mental health. And I believe that with strategic, conservative advocacy, we create a future where everyone facing mental health challenges has a chance to thrive. So thank you very much for being willing, which is always the most difficult task, to close the conference that we had today. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone. So it's been an amazing experience for me to be here. I'm going to have you as well. What do you think? It's been worthwhile? If you met someone new here at the event that you formed a connection with, please stand up. Looks like almost everyone's met somebody new, except for those who already know everybody. But thank you for standing. Now, if you learned something new at this conference, will you please raise your hand? Okay, I'm raising my hand as well. Absolutely. And if you have an interest in a new direction for research based on what you've learned at the conference, also raise your hand. Good. All right, thanks. Now we have a little physical exercise. We're ready for the final talk. But I'm so glad you agree with me. It's been a very educational and worthwhile conference so far. We've learned a lot about new directions in research. To your point, Josh, about concern in the public about whether there's actually any advantages coming from research. We have to disprove that with the talk we've heard today, learning about such innovations as using artificial intelligence for diagnosis, using imaging to stratify patients to better treatments and surveys for the same purpose as Deanna talked about, using CBD as a novel treatment for CHR state. All very exciting innovations we've learned about today. So those are examples. They are very important because we are facing in our society a shadow crisis. I call it a shadow crisis because, number one, it is a crisis. People with schizophrenia are struggling and suffering and dying by the millions all around the world. And no one talks about this issue in the public in general, because stigma is a huge problem especially for schizophrenia. It's actually gotten worse over the last 10 years. For schizophrenia, contrary to that, and other major mental health conditions. But it is a crisis we face nonetheless. Outcomes of people who develop schizophrenia range from that it's not treated well, losing their friends, losing their job, losing their home, their sense of self, their life in so many cases. I was on the brink of many of these outcomes when I was first diagnosed in my first case. I'm grateful to be with you today and to talk about the things we can do to address the challenges we face in our society to make a better world for people struggling with serious mental illness. I'll share about my story as an example of what happens when care goes right and what I've learned from that experience. And then I'll dive into some of the challenges we face and ways to address them. As a team of scientists and advocates can work together to make a better world. My story begins on a fall evening in 1990 when geese were flying across the horizon. College students were returning to their fall semesters, and the horizon was turning red with the new sunset. I, as a college student, was seeing none of this. I was trapped in the vortex of my thoughts and feelings, my bizarre hallucinations and delusions. And that beautiful world outside my window was passing me by. Why have the medications my doctor prescribed really feel like myself again? Schizophrenia that I'd been diagnosed with just 2 months before was still echoing louder and louder in my head at the time. Hallucinations and delusions that I had were dogging me at every moment, starting worry and fear. I sorely miss the person that I once had been 2 months before, strong enough to reach for the stars. I miss the love that I felt from my friends back at Dartmouth College, enjoying time in their company. I missed learning about principles of human and primate behavior in my classes. I missed the enduring chimpanzee family I've been studying as a volunteer research assistant that summer. I doubted I'd ever experience any of those joys again. And the doubt was slowly crushing my will to go on. Now, the only thing that made sense was my conviction that demons lurk behind every corner, waiting to pounce on me and drag my soul off to hell for all eternity, if I made the slightest small mistake at any moment. This delusion drove me to despair and exhaustion over the course of 3 months, and drove me nearly to death's door. I doubt I would make it much longer. But sometimes flashes of relief, like I was close to heaven, would appear. And these heavenly moments, I thought to myself, what is there a way out of this, way through this? I actually thought, what if I could die in one of these heavenly moments in my life? Would I then spend eternity in heaven? The warm calm of the evening descended upon me, and I knew the moment had come. As I had heard of elderly folks dying quickly, heartbroken when their spouses had passed away, I was certain that I too could choose to go to sleep and not wake up. I grabbed my sleeping bag out of the closet and called over the kitchen. Good night, Mom. Good night, Dad. Good night, Shannon. I'm going to go sleep out on the lawn again tonight. Good night, Brandon. Hope you don't get too cold. This is anything to do. Mom called back from the kitchen. I strode out to the front lawn and spread my sleeping bag into the fragrant green grass under the sycamores. And my thoughts began to race. Did I really want to do that? Wasn't there some reason to go on? I nestled into the cozy folds of the bag, and the galaxy below overhead, once such a source of inspiration, now glared down at me like an accusation. I was lying there alone in the dark. I feared my dreams were dead. But then, the fresh scent of the green grass kicked up with the wind, entered me, and sparked a new curiosity for life. And the answer came back, yes, there was a reason to go on. All that summer there'd been a spectacle that I wanted to see. Male chimpanzees would sometimes perform a dominance display, as I read about in Jane Goodall's books back at Dartmouth. This is where they beat their chests and hoot and holler and scream and throw things, all to inspire awe and their fellow chimpanzees to enhance their standing in the community. This was exactly the kind of ferocity which I wanted to take all my life, I realized. It was also the kind of spectacle that I would love to discover for myself and see what that looked like firsthand. By extension, I knew that the universe held endless potential for beautiful discovery that I could experience and make happen for others. In that moment, I realized that curiosity can hold the key to a better life. I vowed to get up and go back inside and renew my quest for well-being. However, recovery is not a straight shot. It was more like a hike up a very steep hill with gravel beneath my feet. One step forward, 2 steps back. And there was a moment about a month later when I was in the kitchen and I barely noticed my dad there eating breakfast. I just shuffled in, staring at the floorboards in private pain. And I closed my eyes and began to sway. And that's when I heard my dad say something deeper than I'd heard say before. There's a lot of love coming from here, Brandon. I opened my eyes and gazed into his. I knew in the steadiness of his gaze that he meant what he said. It was much deeper than what I heard him say before. Take your meds, take your meds. And it hit me then that my illness impacted him deeply as well. I felt simultaneously embarrassed that my illness had hurt him and relieved that he loved me anyway. That moment saw the beginning of love as a primary value in my life. Although I couldn't feel love at the moment, I wanted to feel it again and participate in love with my family again. I vowed then to do everything I could to recover once again. I set alarms on my watch to remind me to take my medicine at the proper times. And every week as my voices quieted and the world around me got clearer, my psychiatrist and I celebrated together with enthusiastic high fives. It worked. I graduated from college with degrees with honors in engineering sciences and anthropology. I went to work at Space Systems L'Oreal, a communication satellite company in the Silicon Valley area. And it was essentially living the dream for me at the time. I'd always wanted to build spacecraft, and I was able to do that. I applied for a Master of Engineering degree at Stanford and MIT. When I got in, I gripped the acceptance envelope with great joy. However, I realized that I'd have to sleep less than 9 hours per night, like philosophy was like making me sleep. I was in graduate school. So I ramped up my medication. 2 weeks before I was to leave for MIT, a relapse struck. I couldn't concentrate, I couldn't focus on work. And when my roommates found me frantically kicking a soccer ball around our backyard, fluttering below my breath and breaking windows with a ball, and they called me a worthless lunatic, I knew that something had gone drastically wrong again. I resigned from my job, checked into a psychiatric hospital, was found at UCSF. We began the long road to recovery again. This time recovery took much, much longer. I moved in with my parents in the Napa Valley where they have a new home. And I felt like there may be no way out of this psychedelics. Then I found the opportunity to participate in a new trial of cognitive training. I felt excited to be there at the dawn of digital therapies. It was actually funded by our nonprofit OneMind, which my parents had founded in the intervening years. I dedicated myself to the laptop-based brain training challenges an hour a day, 5 days a week for 2 months. And every week I felt my cognition improving and that I could understand conversation better, read with more concentration, and participate better in social situations. So after about 6 months of this, my confidence had grown so great that I asked the research assistant to perform my cognitive training studies out of college. Of course, he said no. You should have. I'm glad you did. But it showed the confidence that I had been able to build during that time. And that confidence snowballed over the years and it grew. And I was able to rejoin work and enjoy time with friends again very soon thereafter. It was a major breakthrough for my recovery. I knew I would return the favor that science had done. But before I could become an advocate for dedicating my life to advocacy, I realized that I'd have to learn to care about not just science and my own well-being, but about people, period. This happened one summer morning on the eve of our 10th music festival for Brain, which is our main annual fundraiser for OneMind. The whole community was abuzz with the anticipation for the gala event, but I was feeling actually resentment. My parents had founded this nonprofit 10 years before, and it created lots of good for many people, but I felt like I was being pressured to be the poster boy for the cause. And I didn't want to. I felt a shadow of my former self then. Didn't want the attention. It changed that day when I understood what it was really about. I dropped into my office chair that morning working as web designer for Staglin Family Video and saw an article about a donor to the music festival for brain health and her son. His name was Mark Brennan. He too lived with schizophrenia. So my eyes widened at something kind of like my experience. He, like me, had a good recovery for about a year until he too went off his medication and had a terrible relapse. When his mother found him a month later in his apartment, he was past the point of no return. And to this day, they don't know where he is. He's somewhere on the streets of Seattle with him. It's a devastating tragedy for that family. And the article made it clear that it's like that for so many families around the country and the world, because the medical system cannot take care of serious mental illness that it should. I gritted my teeth at being justice in this situation, and I vowed I wanted to do something to address this injustice. And I realized I had a platform that I could do that. I called up my mom. I said, Mom, I'd like to build a website for the music festival for Brain. I have skills. I want to do this for your cause. And she said, oh, great. So 2 months later, the music festival for Brain had its first website. And when I celebrated there at the 10th anniversary festival with, you see here, Ty Cannon and my Brisbane, who were there speaking that year, I felt like a conquering alpha chimpanzee fresh off the dominance display. So proud that I was able to contribute to this cause that matters so much for so many people. Nothing was more important than a chance to pay it forward. Today, I serve as OneMind's president, and I'm grateful to lead an amazing team spread all around the country. Inspired by my family's experience, OneMind catalyzes visionary change through science, business, and media to transform the world's mental health. And this work has brought hope and healing for countless lives. We've enrolled through studies that we have funded over 10,000 people in clinical studies for their benefit. We have impacted over about 8 million lives through the OneMind Work program that we offer to workplace mental health. And we have funded 43 Rising Star Awards over the last 15 years to help scientists get their research in their labs off the ground with revolution in the community. And many of those are great leaders in the world today of science research. John is one of those. And doing amazing, even more amazing things today. I believe that if all young people facing serious mental illness can access care like I received, they would have a splendid shot at recovery. Care that employs state-of-the-art science and medicine and relies a sense of belonging through personal drive, love, community, and sense of a cause, as I was able to access the great care that I received. These can enable youth to build meaningful lives, give them the sense of confidence that we can do that again. I committed myself to ensuring that all young people have access to gold standard care like this and enable healthy lives for people. So you've been listening to me for about 20 minutes now. Now's a chance for you to think about something. If you have anything you'd like to add, you're welcome to do that. But belonging goes beyond just medicine and science to improve recovery and mental well-being. Those of you who treat patients, what role have you seen this play, either through drive, love, community, or cause, in building up their well-being and their recovery? Well, something to think about in the future. I'll be happy to follow up with you after if you have any thoughts. So, we as a group here at the YAM Schizophrenia, and by the way, I'm very proud of OneMind being a member of and a partner of YAM, have a challenge ahead of us. We need to improve the care system, and we are at the scientific basis of that process. But our ambition faces real challenges. The care system has a long way to go. Before the pandemic, about 300,000 young Americans developed psychosis each and every year for the very first time. This is based on data that Maureen Radigan and her colleagues right here in New York developed on the Medicaid population in 2019. Current coordinated specialty care capacity to treat young people with early psychosis is far below demand, and the clinical high-risk treatment system is even less developed. In fact, I estimate that about 10% of those in need of early psychosis care can access it through coordinated specialty care today. Medicines, as we said, are only partially effective and exert side effects, weight gain, emotional blunting, etc. Communities are weakening as a growing distrust of medical research and medical care, especially among marginalized communities. Loneliness is growing, as the Surgeon General has called out in recent days. And unfortunately, even the best care for early psychosis often fails to sustain recovery, as we've just heard recently from that Victoria. But solutions are within reach. We need to engage people earlier. That's step one. through public psychoeducation, pediatric screening, as Deanna was talking about, digital outreach like Michael Burwell was talking about earlier today, even drop-in centers, inspired by the Headspace model that was pioneered in Australia by folks like Dr. Gloria. Already it's growing in the United States with the Alpha model. Improve medical treatments. That's what the AMP is here to do. Very proud of the work that you were doing. Stratify patients to accelerate research, develop precision psychiatry, so that people get the right treatment from the very beginning. Develop safer, more reliable medication with fewer side effects, so people won't discontinue them. Innovate and diversify treatment model. We gave you great examples, Dr. McCrory, of new things that could happen, as did Dr. McGuire. We can use the FNet or Pronet or Prescient as a vehicle for new testing new treatments at scale. There are already these research networks in place and testing at a large scale. I think we should consider emerging psychosocial treatments, things like supportive psychodynamic therapy, kind of a lesser used, but be very effective at helping young people make sense of their psychotic experience. And incorporate tech-enhanced solutions like metaverse-based interventions, community building in the metaverse, something that I've learned from a company called Interverse, founded by our OneMind champion, Jewel, can help people with schizophrenia connect online in ways they don't feel comfortable connecting in person. Or AI-enhanced diagnostics, we heard about from Dr. Street to the South today. Finally, grow the network so that more people can be treated effectively. So there has to be reimbursement and parity so that more people can afford the care that they need. Right now, so many people have to go on Medicaid for these specific care. That's not a viable long-term solution. Enhance the workforce through adding lay counselors, through adding peers, through adding internships, and take care of the mental well-being of the clinicians in those programs so that they do not burn out and stay engaged in the care they deliver. Leverage telehealth to reach more people in the state. I circle this second one as this is where the sweet spot of the AMP primarily is. You have the power to make these changes happen. I've worked with scientists for 20 years, and I know that we can do this. We can do this together. You have an open mind, heart, and hands. That makes for an unstoppable combination. How do I know this? You are curious, courageous, compassionate, and you care. You're curious. You delight in discovering new insights and sharing them with the world. You're courageous. Your research may hit snags and setbacks again and again. And we heard about some of them today, and some of these trials have found less effective than they hoped. But those are still steps forward. Courageous to carry on facing setbacks. You're compassionate. You dedicate yourself to science to help people struggle with mental illness. That's the definition of compassion. And you are caring. Some of you have traveled halfway across the world to be here with us today. You definitely care about this cause. And you've come at exactly the right time to build hope. I'll give you some hope as an example. So a young friend of mine lives with schizophrenia. Thanks to science, he's come through a very rough spot. He was doing well for about 10 years when I first met him. And he had a terrible relapse during the pandemic when he went off his medication. And he lost his job, he lost his home, he lost his friends, like I was talking about at the beginning. And he nearly lost his freedom for good. Now, thanks to science-based medical care, his family's love, and getting engaged with the community again, he's starting to thrive once again, working and spending time with friends again. So I'm very happy for him. Thank you for the good that you've done for people like him all around the world. Thank you for the good you've done for people like me. Together we'll move mountains. Keep investigating. Keep doing the science that you do. As we heard from Don earlier today, the comment he heard about on the plane flying here, your work is critical to make a difference for people with serious mental illness. Educate the public about the significance of the accelerated medicine partnership with schizophrenia. People need to know about this, and U.S. scientists are well positioned to share about the work you're doing that is making a difference. OneMind can be a platform for that for media division, so contact me if you're interested to be a voice in this. Carlos and Dr. Gordon have been featured on one of our webcasts and talked about the AMP last year. If you're interested, you can do this too. Advocate for policy improvements. Currently, policy doesn't support research the way it should. It's underfunded. The changes in the debt ceiling deal, the NIH is probably a flatline budget for this year and going forward. It should get more funding, as should all of the research. Finally, commercialize the innovations that you produce. When you have a new solution that's been discovered, if you commercialize it, you can make it reach more people all throughout the ecosystem. Through the market. So mental health care should be built on science and belonging, and be able to play a crucial role in building the system that we need, people that we care about and love. You have a crucial role in making that happen. Together we'll transform lives. Thank you for what you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. I think we couldn't have had a better closing of this day and a more inspiring talk. I mean, you make us speechless almost. I think, you know, you really show us what we can do and what we should do and what the path forward is. You've done it extremely eloquently and very emotionally, I think, and moving. So I think this was a very fit end of the day. I think this is inspiring us all to continue our work and to work even harder and to, you know, indeed be an advocate of what we do. I think this is absolutely great. So thank you so very much, Brandon, for being here.